Captain Alex Morgan stood on the bridge of the ESS Pathfinder, watching the stars through the main viewport. His hands clasped behind his back, shoulders straight despite the weight of responsibility he carried. This ship represented humanity's greatest achievement and its most ridiculed project in the galactic community. "Captain, the Excellency Ambassador requests entry to the bridge," announced Lieutenant Penny Walsh, her voice tight with annoyance. She didn't need to explain why. Everyone aboard had experienced the ambassador's condescension. "Let him in," Alex sighed. "Let's get this over with." The doors slid open, and Ambassador Vrultek glided onto the bridge. The Excellency moved with the fluid grace of a species that had mastered space travel when humans were still learning to make fire. His translucent skin shimmered under the bridge lights, displaying complex patterns that reflected his emotional state, currently barely concealed amusement. "Captain Morgan, how quaint to see your crew manually operating control systems," Vrultek said, his translator producing perfect English while his four eyes blinked in sequence. Most civilized species automated such tasks millennia ago. Alex forced a smile. "We prefer hands-on control for experimental vessels, Ambassador." "Experimental, yes." The alien made a sound like bubbles popping, the Excellency equivalent of laughter. "Your D7 drive is certainly ambitious for a species that only achieved faster-than-light travel 60 years ago." From her station, Dr. Olivia Wright looked up from her data screens, her patience visibly wearing thin. As the designer of the seventh-dimensional drive, she had endured more mockery than anyone. "The principles are sound, Ambassador," she said firmly. "Accessing the seventh dimension will revolutionize space travel." "My dear doctor," Vrultek replied, "your species barely comprehends the fourth dimension. The seventh requires mathematical frameworks your brightest minds cannot grasp." Officer Sam Chen muttered something under his breath that made Engineer Kate Donovan stifle a laugh. Alex shot them a warning glance before addressing the ambassador again. "The Galactic Confederation accepted Earth as a member 10 years ago. We've earned our place." "As a charity case, perhaps," said another voice. Ambassador Krax of the Volturi Dominion stepped onto the bridge, his metallic exoskeleton clicking with each movement. "Your planet provides excellent vacation spots." "Little else." Alex felt his jaw tighten but maintained his composure. Earth's admission to the Confederation had come with benefits. Advanced medicine, cleaner energy, but at the cost of dignity. Humanity had become the cosmic equivalent of a backwards cousin invited to dinner out of obligation. "The D7 drive test launches tomorrow," Alex said. "Perhaps you'll reserve judgment until after the demonstration." Vrultek's skin patterns shifted to deep blue amusement. "We've observed 26 species attempt dimensional expansion beyond their capability. The results are always entertaining." "What the ambassador means," Krax added with false diplomacy, "is that we're here to ensure your safety when the inevitable failure occurs." Dr. Wright stood up suddenly. "Captain, may I show our guests the final diagnostic results?" Alex nodded, recognizing the fire in her eyes. Olivia walked to the main display and pulled up a complex series of equations and models that filled the screen. "These calculations predict a 98.7% success rate for dimensional transition," she explained. "The human brain has unique properties that facilitate seventh-dimensional navigation." The aliens exchanged glances. "Impossible," Vrultek said flatly. "Your mathematics must be flawed." "Maybe," said Alex with a small smile, "or maybe humans understand more than you think." As they argued, none noticed the subtle flicker in the drive's containment field displayed on a secondary monitor. For just a moment, the ship's sensors detected something extraordinary, a brief connection to something far beyond the seventh dimension. Tomorrow's test would show the galaxy exactly what humans were capable of, and the laughter would finally stop. The ESS Pathfinder hung above Luna shipyards, its silver hull gleaming in the sunlight. Below, Earth shone like a blue jewel against the blackness of space. Inside the ship, the crew made final preparations for humanity's most ambitious test flight. "All systems ready for launch, Captain," reported Navigation Officer Sam Chen. His fingers moved quickly over the holographic controls, plotting the test course that would take them to the edge of the solar system and back. Captain Alex Morgan nodded. "Commence final pre-launch checks." Engineer Kate Donovan's voice came through the comm system from the engine room. "D7 drive is running at optimal parameters. Power flow is stable." Alex looked over at Dr. Olivia Wright, who was staring intently at her screens. Dark circles under her eyes revealed the sleepless nights spent perfecting the drive. "Doctor, your thoughts?" he asked. Olivia looked up. "The drive is ready, Captain. But I recommend caution. The simulation data still shows some unpredictable variables." From the observation area, Ambassador Vrultek made a dismissive gesture. "All new technologies have risks. Of course, attempting to access dimensions beyond your comprehension multiplies those risks exponentially." Science Officer Jack Rivera rolled his eyes. "With respect, Ambassador, we're not children playing with matches." "Debatable," muttered Ambassador Krax. Alex raised his hand for silence. "We launch in 5 minutes. Please secure yourselves." The countdown proceeded without incident. When it reached 0, Kate activated the conventional engines first. The Pathfinder moved away from Luna at a steady pace. "Conventional propulsion functioning normally," Sam reported. "Clearing lunar orbit." "Prepare D7 drive for initial activation," Alex ordered. 10% power only for this first test." The tension on the bridge was palpable. Humans had accessed 4-dimensional space with standard FTL drives for decades, but the 7th dimension remained theoretical for most species. Only the ancient Zithri claimed to have briefly touched it, and they shared little of their knowledge. "D7 drive engaging in 3, 2, 1, Kate announced. A slight vibration ran through the ship. The lights dimmed momentarily, then returned to normal brightness. "Status?" Alex asked. Olivia frowned at her readings. "Something's not right. We're getting dimensional resonance beyond our calculations." The ship shuddered again. On the main view screen, space itself seemed to ripple, as if they were looking at reality through water. "What's happening?" demanded Vrultek, his skin patterns shifting to alarmed yellow. "We're not just accessing the 7th dimension," Olivia said, her voice filled with wonder rather than fear. "The drive is somehow reaching into the 8th, possibly even the 9th. "Impossible," Krax exclaimed. "Your primitive technology can it." "It's not the technology," Jack interrupted, studying his own readings. "It's us. The human crew is somehow facilitating the dimensional expansion." Outside the ship, space folded in ways that defied conventional physics. Stars seemed to stretch and compress simultaneously. Yet inside, beyond the initial turbulence, everything felt remarkably stable. "I'm detecting something extraordinary," Olivia said. "The neural patterns of everyone aboard are synchronizing with the drive somehow. It's as if our brains are acting as dimensional anchors." Vrultek moved closer to her screen, his mockery replaced by genuine scientific curiosity. "This contradicts all established dimensional theory." "Captain," Sam called out, "we've traveled 15 astronomical units in under 30 seconds. We're approaching Jupiter's orbit already." Alex felt a strange sensation, as if his mind was stretching beyond his body. From the expressions on his crew's faces, they felt it too. It wasn't uncomfortable, more like suddenly gaining a new sense. "The readings suggest humans have natural neural pathways attuned to higher dimensions," Olivia explained. "We never knew because we lacked the technology to activate them." As the Pathfinder continued its journey, the alien observers watched in silence, their laughter forgotten. Something unprecedented was happening, and humanity was at its center. The Pathfinder continued its test flight beyond the orbit of Neptune, pushing deeper into the outer solar system. For the past 3 hours, the crew had been conducting various experiments with the D7 drive, each more successful than the last. The once skeptical alien observers now watched in silence, their earlier mockery replaced by uneasy fascination. "Captain, I'm detecting an unidentified vessel at the edge of the Oort cloud," Sam reported suddenly. His voice remained calm, but his posture stiffened. Alex moved to the navigation console. "Can you get a visual?" The main screen flickered, showing a dark, jagged ship that resembled nothing built by humans or their Confederation allies. Its surface absorbed light rather than reflected it, making it appear like a hole in space. Ambassador Vrultek hissed softly. "Trachid. A scout vessel." "Trachid?" Jack asked. "I don't remember them from our briefings on Confederation species." "They are not members," Krax explained, his metallic voice unusually serious. "The Drachids reject all alliances. They believe strength is the only law that matters." Alex turned to his communications officer. "Penny, open a channel." Standard greeting protocols. Before Penny could comply, the alien ship accelerated toward them at frightening speed. "They've locked weapons," Sam shouted. "Energy buildup detected." "Defensive shields to maximum," Alex commanded. "Evasive maneuvers." The Pathfinder banked sharply, but the Drachid vessel matched their movements with ease. A beam of sickly green energy lashed out, striking the human ship's shields. "Shields at 60% from a single hit," Kate reported from engineering. "Whatever that weapon is, it's nothing like we've seen before." Ambassador Vrultek moved beside Alex. "Captain, the Drachids have been testing Confederation borders for years. They likely see your experimental vessel as an easy target to analyze our technology." A second blast hit the Pathfinder, sending tremors through the hull. Warning lights flashed across every console. "Shields failing," Kate's voice crackled over the comm. "One more hit like that, and we're done." Alex looked at Olivia. "Doctor, can the D7 drive get us out of here?" "Not safely," she answered. "We haven't tested emergency activation protocols. I don't think we have a choice." Alex made his decision. "Prepare for emergency D7 activation. All power to the drive." The crew worked quickly, rerouting systems as the Drachid ship circled for another attack. The alien observers watched with a mixture of fear and curiosity. "This is extremely unwise," Krax warned. "An uncontrolled dimensional shift could tear this vessel apart." Alex ignored him. "Dr. Wright, activate the drive on my mark." The Drachid vessel fired again. This time, the beam penetrated the weakened shields, scoring a direct hit on the Pathfinder's hull. "Hull breach on deck 4, Sam shouted over the blaring alarms. "Now, Doctor," Alex ordered. Olivia activated the D7 drive at full power. For a moment, nothing happened. Then reality itself seemed to bend around them. The bridge lights flickered and died, replaced by an eerie glow that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. Each person aboard felt a strange sensation, as if their consciousness was being pulled in multiple directions simultaneously. "What's happening?" Vrultek demanded, his skin patterns showing panic. Olivia stared at her readings in disbelief. "We're not just moving through the 7th dimension. We're phase-shifting between multiple dimensions at once." Outside the viewports, space took on an impossible quality. The stars became visible from all angles simultaneously, as if the ship existed in multiple places at once. The attacking Drachid vessel appeared frozen in place, its energy beams suspended in mid-firing. "I can feel it," Jack whispered. "I can sense the dimensions around us." The other human crew members nodded in agreement. Each could somehow perceive the dimensional layers surrounding the ship, as if a new sense had awakened in their minds. The alien observers, however, clutched their heads in pain. "Too much," Vrultek gasped. "The perceptual load is overwhelming." As the Pathfinder continued its dimensional shift, the balance of power in the encounter had irrevocably changed. The Pathfinder hung suspended between dimensions, neither fully in normal space nor completely outside it. Through the viewports, the crew could see the Drachid warship frozen in attack position, its deadly beam paused mid-strike. Inside the human vessel, the alien observers lay curled on the deck, overwhelmed by the perceptual shift, while the human crew remained standing, disoriented but functional. "Status report," Alex called out, his voice sounding strange in the altered space. "We're everywhere and nowhere," Sam replied, staring at his console in wonder. "According to sensors, we exist partially in at least 14 different dimensional planes." Dr. Olivia Wright moved from station to station, checking readings with growing excitement. The D7 drive overshot our targets dramatically, but instead of tearing the ship apart, it's created a stable phase state. We're partially intangible to normal spacetime. Jack helped Ambassador Vrultek to a seat. The alien skin had turned a sickly gray, his 4 eyes unable to focus. How are you functioning?" Vrultek gasped. "The dimensional overlap should be crushing your consciousness." Kate joined them from engineering, moving through the ship as if in a dream. "It doesn't feel crushing. It feels natural somehow, like we were always meant to perceive reality this way." Alex turned to Olivia. "Doctor, can you explain what's happening to us?" She nodded slowly, piecing together the puzzle in real time. I think humans possess unique neurological structures. Our brains evolved on Earth, where subtle dimensional fluctuations occur naturally due to our planet's position in space." "That's absurd," Ambassador Krax muttered weakly from where he lay. "Earth is not dimensionally special." "Not obviously special," Olivia corrected. "But our preliminary scans detected minute-dimensional anomalies throughout Earth's crust. They're too subtle for conventional detection methods, but they've been influencing human evolution for millions of years." Jack's eyes widened with realization. Is that why humans have always believed in concepts like spirits, other planes of existence, and parallel worlds? Were we somehow sensing these dimensional layers all along? "Precisely," Olivia confirmed. "What we called imagination or intuition might actually be primitive dimensional perception." Vrultek managed to sit upright, though his movements remained unsteady. "Impossible. Your primitives shouldn't be able to perceive beyond the 11th dimension. Even the most advanced species struggle past that threshold. And yet here we are," Alex said calmly. "The question is, what do we do with this ability?" As he spoke, Alex realized he could somehow sense the ship's position relative to normal space. Not through instruments, but through an intuitive awareness that felt as natural as seeing or hearing. Looking around, he noticed other crew members exhibiting the same awareness. "I think I can move us," Sam said suddenly. "Not with the controls, but with my mind. I can feel where we are and where we could be." "That's not possible," Krax insisted, but with less conviction than before. Alex made a decision. "Sam, try to position us behind the Dratchid vessel, but keep us in this partial phase state." Sam closed his eyes in concentration. The view outside the ship blurred, then refocused. The Dratchid warship was now ahead of them, still frozen in time, its weapons pointed at empty space where the Pathfinder had been. "It worked," Kate exclaimed. "We physically relocated without conventional movement." Olivia studied her readings with growing excitement. "We're not just traveling through space. We're stepping outside the flow of time and re-entering it at a different spatial coordinate." "Can we affect the Dratchid ship?" Alex asked. Jack stepped forward. "Captain, I think we can. I can sense its energy systems. They exist partially in higher dimensions, which is why their weapons are so powerful. And likely why they can't perceive us now," Olivia added. "They're dimensionally aware, but not like we are." Alex considered their options. "Let's see if we can neutralize their weapons without destroying the ship. A demonstration rather than destruction." The crew focused their newfound awareness, guiding the Pathfinder to ghost partially through the Dratchid vessel. As they passed through, they disrupted its energy systems, leaving it intact but completely powered down. As normal spacetime reasserted itself around them, The crew of the Pathfinder realized humanity had just taken its first steps into a much larger universe. 1 week after the encounter with the Drachid warship, the ESS Pathfinder orbited Earth as the center of unprecedented attention. Ships from every major Confederation world hovered nearby, their delegates waiting for permission to board the human vessel that had changed galactic understanding overnight. Captain Alex Morgan stood in the newly enlarged conference room, watching as representatives from 17 different species filed in. The arrogance that had characterized previous interactions was notably absent. Even the most advanced civilizations now approached with cautious respect. "Captain Morgan, we are honored by your invitation," said Council Elder Jin of the Artaxians, a species that had previously dismissed humans as barely worth diplomatic effort. "The Confederation Science Directorate eagerly awaits your demonstration." Alex nodded politely. "Dr. Wright will explain our findings before the practical demonstration." Olivia stepped forward, displaying none of the nervousness she might have felt a week ago. News of the Pathfinder's capabilities had spread through Confederation channels at speeds rivaling the ship's new travel method. "Distinguished delegates," she began, "what you're about to witness isn't just a technological breakthrough, but a fundamental shift in our understanding of dimensional physics." The room fell silent as Olivia activated a holographic display showing complex neural patterns alongside dimensional models. "Humans evolved on a planet with unique dimensional fluctuations," she explained. "These fluctuations are subtle, so subtle that even your advanced scanners missed them. But over millions of years, they shaped our brains to naturally perceive and navigate higher dimensions." Ambassador Vrultek, who had requested to remain aboard as an observer, nodded in confirmation. "We have verified Dr. Wright's findings independently. Earth sits at a minor intersection of dimensional folds that created conditions found nowhere else in charted space." A representative from the Zithri conclave raised a slender appendage. "This explains much about human creativity and intuition, qualities we found puzzling in such a young species." "Exactly," Olivia continued. "What we called imagination was actually our minds touching other dimensional realities. Our D7 drive simply amplifies and focuses this natural ability." The delegates murmured among themselves. Alex gestured toward the viewports where Earth rotated slowly below. "We've spent our history looking outward to the stars," he said, never realizing that the multiverse was already whispering to us through our dreams and inspirations. A previously silent delegate from the reclusive Marins spoke up. "We request a practical demonstration of these capabilities." Alex nodded to Sam, who activated the main view screen. "We'll conduct 3 demonstrations. First, phase transition through solid matter." The view screen showed a live feed of the Pathfinder approaching a massive asteroid. Instead of avoiding it, the ship passed directly through the solid rock, emerging undamaged on the other side. Gasps echoed through the conference room. Second, Alex continued, instant spatial transition. On screen, the Pathfinder disappeared from the asteroid field and reappeared near Saturn's rings, a journey that should have taken hours even with conventional FTL drives. Finally, Alex said, "Temporal observation." The screen showed a strange perspective of Earth, as if viewed from an impossible angle where past, present, and near-future events were simultaneously visible as overlapping layers. "We cannot change time," Olivia clarified quickly, noting the alarmed expressions. "We can only observe it sideways through dimensional shifting." The timeline remained stable. The demonstrations complete, Alex addressed the silent delegates. "Humanity doesn't seek dominance through these abilities. We seek partnership. The dimensions beyond our normal perceptions hold answers to questions all our species share." As the meeting concluded, Sam approached Alex quietly. "Captain, word from Earth Defense Command. The Drachid Empire is mobilizing along 3 Confederation borders." Alex met the navigator's eyes. "Then it's time to show that our encounter wasn't a fluke." Around them, the delegates continued discussing implications, unaware that humanity's dimensional breakthrough would soon face its greatest test. Alarms blared throughout Confederation space. On 3 fronts, Massive Drachid battle fleets emerged from hyperspace, targeting major population centers. The surprise attack had been carefully planned, a decisive strike meant to cripple the Confederation before a coordinated response could form. In Earth's orbital shipyards, 6 newly completed vessels sat in their berths. Each resembled the Pathfinder but incorporated refinements based on what they had learned. These ships had been rushed to completion when intelligence suggested the Drachid were mobilizing. All D7 vessels report ready status. Admiral, Lieutenant Penny Walsh announced in the Earth Defense Command Center. Admiral Frank Harrison nodded grimly. The holographic display showed the 3 Drachid attack groups, each containing hundreds of warships against which conventional defenses would be overwhelmed. "How many crew per ship?" he asked. "Just 15, sir," Penny replied. "The minimum needed for dimensional navigation. We don't have enough trained navigators for more ships yet." Captain Alex Morgan entered the command center, followed by Dr. Olivia Wright and the core crew of the Pathfinder. All wore new uniforms with a distinctive silver insignia representing dimensional travel. "The Drachid have deployed over 800 warships," Alex reported. "Confederation forces are falling back on all fronts. Civilian evacuation has begun, but millions are still in danger." Admiral Harrison studied the tactical display. 7 ships against 800. Those aren't good odds, even with your dimensional capabilities. "Numbers matter less in higher dimensions," Olivia explained. "What matters is perspective and position." The Admiral sighed. "I hope you're right. You have authorization to deploy immediately." Within minutes, the 7 D7 vessels moved into formation above Earth. Unlike conventional ships that would have needed hours to reach the battle zones, these ships required only seconds. "All ships, prepare for dimensional shift," Alex commanded from the lead vessel. "Target coordinates. Procyon system, above the 3rd planet." The small fleet vanished from Earth orbit. In the Procyon system, 30 light-years away, over 300 Drachid warships bombarded Confederation defense platforms. Civilian transports desperately tried to escape the onslaught. Without warning, the 7 Earth vessels appeared directly behind the Drachid command ship. Unlike their conventional emergence from hyperspace, which would have created energy signatures, the D7 ships simply faded into existence, undetected. "Begin phase operations," Alex ordered. The human ships moved through the Drachid fleet like ghosts, partially phased between dimensions. When they passed through enemy vessels, they didn't damage the ships themselves. Instead, they shifted the weapons and propulsion systems slightly out of dimensional alignment, rendering them useless. On the Drachid command ship, alarms sounded as systems failed across the fleet. "What is happening?" the Drachid High Commander demanded. "Why our weapons stopped functioning?" "Unknown, High Commander," his tactical officer responded. 300 ships reporting complete systems failure. No damage detected, but nothing works. Similar scenes played out in the other 2 battle zones. Within 3 hours, all 800 Drachid warships hung powerless in space, their crews unharmed but thoroughly defeated. Not a single shot had been fired by the human vessels. In the Confederation Security Council emergency session, species that had once mocked humans now watched in stunned silence as footage of the one-sided engagement played on screens around the chamber. "The humans didn't destroy a single ship," a Volturi representative noted with amazement. "They simply neutralized them." Ambassador Vrultek addressed the council. "What you witnessed wasn't just advanced technology. It represents an evolutionary step. Humans can perceive and manipulate reality in ways we cannot comprehend." The council leader leaned forward. "And what happens when they turn these abilities against the Confederation?" "They won't," Vrultek replied confidently. "I've observed them closely. They could have conquered us already if domination was their goal. Instead, they offered partnership." As the council debated, the 7D7 vessels returned to Earth orbit. Their crews disembarked, exhausted but successful. They had transformed from galactic newcomers to saviors in a single day. Humanity's evolution had just begun. 6 months after the Dracid conflict, Earth had transformed. The once modest human embassy on Confederation Central now occupied a prominent position in the diplomatic quarter. Inside, Captain Alex Morgan, now Ambassador Morgan, prepared for a historic meeting. "The Zithri delegates have arrived," announced his assistant. Alex nodded, straightening his formal uniform. The Zithri, the oldest known species in the galaxy, had previously kept their distance from humans. Today, they sought humanity's guidance. The meeting chamber filled with representatives from 23 species. Dr. Olivia Wright sat beside Alex, her research team's findings displayed on screens around the room. The dimensional training program she had developed was the day's topic. "Thank you all for coming," Alex began. "6 months ago, many of you questioned whether humans belonged in galactic society at all. Today we gather as equals with common purpose." Heads nodded around the table. The mockery once directed at humans had disappeared completely. Dr. Wright will explain the training program that allows humans to access their dimensional perception abilities, Alex continued. Olivia stood, activating a holographic display showing neural pathway development. "We've discovered that all humans possess latent dimensional perception. With proper training, about 60% can learn to directly sense higher dimensions. 20% can actively manipulate them." Ambassador Vrultek, now Earth's strongest ally in the Confederation, leaned forward. "And can other species develop similar abilities?" "To varying degrees," Olivia replied. "Our research shows that several species have partial capacity. With neural implants to bridge the gaps, many of you could perceive up to the 12th dimension." The Zithri Elder, a being so ancient that few had ever seen one in person, spoke in a voice like rustling leaves. "We Zithri once glimpsed the higher realms, but our evolutionary path took us toward technological solutions rather than biological ones. We lost what you have rediscovered." The meeting continued as Olivia explained the training methods being implemented on Earth. Already, thousands of humans were developing dimensional awareness. Some could perform limited phase shifting without technological assistance. Meanwhile, on the other side of the galaxy, the ESS Pathfinder continued its mission under Sam Chen, now promoted to captain. His crew explored regions previously considered unreachable, using their dimensional abilities to study phenomena from unique perspectives. In orbit around a neutron star, Sam stood on the bridge, watching his science team work. They had discovered that by viewing the star from the 9th dimensional perspective, they could observe its internal processes directly, something previously thought impossible. "Captain," called Science Officer Lisa Coleman, "I'm detecting unusual dimensional resonance patterns from the star's core." Sam joined her at the science station. "Similar to Earth's patterns." "Yes, but vastly more complex," she replied. "It's as if the star is generating dimensional folds intentionally." Back on Earth, night had fallen on the new Dimensional Academy in Colorado. Inside, Jack Rivera guided a class of students through their first conscious dimensional shift. "Don't try to force it," he explained to the 20 young faces focused on his words. "The dimensions are already all around us. You're not reaching for something distant. You're becoming aware of what was always there." A young woman in the front row gasped as her perception suddenly expanded. Around her, classmates had similar experiences as their minds touched realms beyond normal spacetime. In his private quarters at the Confederation Embassy, Alex Morgan gazed out at the unfamiliar stars of the Confederation homeworld. He reflected on how quickly everything had changed. Just 1 year ago, humans had been cosmic newcomers, barely tolerated by advanced species. The door chimed, and Olivia entered, carrying new research data. "The Dracid have requested to join the training program," she announced with a smile. "Their representatives arrive next week." Alex nodded, unsurprised. Former enemies were now students, seeking understanding rather than conquest. "We still have so much to learn," he said, looking at the stars. "The dimensions beyond the 15th remain mysterious even to us. That's what makes it exciting," Olivia replied. "We're all beginners in the greater cosmos." As they discussed the future, neither noticed the subtle dimensional ripples flowing through nearby space, signs of something far older than any civilization, watching humanity's first steps into a much larger reality.